Welcome to the Takeoff Podcast, the go-to construction podcast for construction professionals seeking inspiration, education, or motivation for the next steps in their career. Each Monday, you'll be joined by me, Mick Donaghy, Managing Director of Gedden Executive Recruitment and a respected name from the industry. A construction leader, a business owner, or someone in the thick of the action. The whole premise of this podcast is for you to get something from it. An idea, a connection, a mentor, whatever it is, I hope you get it. And I hope you enjoy the show. Without further ado, let's get into it. Well, my reasoning for stopping was so strong that I didn't care, so it was like, I don't care whether it's on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, I was like, I don't want to be sick anymore, like that's kind of what it was. It was like, I'm getting sick, man. It's like, why do I want to do this? It's just not fun. So like, it's a bit scary because, like, as an example, the week that I stopped drinking, I had a barbecue to go to, and the guy that I have a barbecue to go to, he is the most, like, I love him. He's one of my best friends, but he's all about Irishness and drink and macho-ness and all that sort of stuff. And it was like, the fact that I wasn't drinking to him at his barbecue was an insult, was a complete insult to him, And so I had to ring him, and I rang him beforehand. And I was like, mate, I'm not drinking at your barbecue to get used to it. And this was like
the craziest fact that we have to make in the first place.
And he was like completely shocked. And it was like half an hour conversation about why. And he was trying to get me. I'm like, mate, if you're a real friend, you'll not be telling me to drink. And that was when he realized, maybe I shouldn't be,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the barbecue started at 1:00. I went round early on purpose because I don't know why. I was like, I'll go round early, and he's not, he doesn't have as much quick wit that I have. I'll be able to cut him to pieces very, very quickly, And so I went round early on purpose. I met with him. We just started talking, having good fun. As the day goes on, he's getting more and more drunk, and he's barely standing up by 2:00. Yeah. I'm fresh as a daisy, and by 4 or 5 o'clock, I've had a great time. I'm away home, and everyone's, just getting really sloppy, but it was a bit scary because you did have to maybe embrace, like, have those interactions. Like, you were like, I'm not drinking, deal with it, kind of thing. Christmas Day, and there's family members who, again, see it as an insult that you're not drinking, but like, I think it's more of a mirror to themselves. Going,
absolutely, yeah.
Maybe I should stop drinking,
Yeah.
So yes, but the barbecues, the Christmas days, the New Year's, but my desire to stop was so strong that I was like, there's nothing going to stop me. But I did a lot of what you were saying, Rob. Those sort of first 60 days, I listened to podcasts about not drinking nearly every day. Because it was like kind of like having a buddy, listening to someone. It's like, it's like having that sort of support. I actually got a coach, which sounds silly, but it's like, I want someone to maybe be that crutch. Because you think of, you're starting a business or you're making these big changes in your life. You go, well, why would I not get a coach? Why would I not get someone who's does this professionally? Yeah. So so what I done with him was I purposely woke up early. I woke up an hour earlier than I would have every day. I went and walked every day, And so I started to get this new routine. And so after that 60 days, I dropped like 7 or 8 kilo, and I was feeling great. And then as time goes on, you just start to feel better and better and better, and you just realize I just don't need to drink. And I was actually out running probably about a week ago, and I went, Jesus, it's nearly come up 6 months, but I hadn't even thought about it, maybe for 2. So I mean, that was kind of my sort of decision. You mentioned your decision. Was it around that sort of time of day?
Yeah, I'd kind of made the decision. It was November 11th was the day that I stopped. But I kind of thought, well, I'll just do it for a month. And then because of probably just that nervousness around, Christmas, New Year's, all that sort of stuff. But then that kind of went away pretty quickly. And I think you're right. Like, after listening to everything and figuring out that I wanted to make the decision, the willpower was just enormous. Like I just didn't have any interest in it. And, it's probably one of the things that you have the most control over in your life, right? Like you can just stop doing it. And then it's actually quite easy to stop, I guess. Just I felt in control and I just felt a weight lifted once I decided that I wasn't going to do it anymore from that point on, that it didn't really matter. Because as well, I think the reason you get educated is to justify it too, right? Like if you feel like you can answer any question, if people have a question, why are you doing it? Well, I'm doing it for, actually 100 reasons, right? Like it's not just the one thing. I'm not an alcoholic or, I'm not doing it for health or anything like that. I'm doing it for these 10 things, all the benefits it provides you, clarity, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, and I think December notoriously is bad for people in the construction industry too, right? Like, I'm builder side, so we're taking clients out and we're also getting, you know, pallets of wine dropped off and, all that sort of stuff, which is okay, but like it's pretty tough. Like I think that's probably the one thing I struggled with a little bit because, up before I stopped drinking, like December was my favorite month of the year. Like I was a
Mm.
big drinker. I enjoyed it. It is a lot of fun, like you get to go out, the company's paying for it for the most part. Like, it is a lot of fun. So I guess I had to change mindsets a little bit then. But again, I just decided that just because I wasn't drinking alcohol, I wasn't going to stop, you know, having that fun still. And I still
Yeah.
did. And then I realized pretty quickly after the first one or two events, I'm like, well, nothing's really different actually. And I feel better. Like you said, I can go to the gym next day or do, I was learning piano or keyboard when I stopped drinking because you probably noticed like you just get so much more time back in your day, right? Like you're not running to the bottle shop to go somewhere, or you're not waiting for the Uber to take you somewhere. Like you can drive to the event, drive home, you're back an hour or two earlier. Like, you're up the next day at 5 or 6 a.m. You've got all this time back in your life. So yeah, which is what I think that's one of the benefits as well. Just so much time and money back into your bank account too. So
Yeah, the time time thing's incredible. Like you do have so much more time. Like you mentioned piano. I started playing chess, and
yeah,
I became
same. I'm
like
giving that a go too. Yeah.
yeah, like addicted to chess. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is friggin' because you at the same time I actually quit social media as well. And when
Yeah.
I use LinkedIn because it's for my work, but the likes of
Yeah.
Instagram and all those sorts of things, I just got off that as well, because
Yeah.
I was just like, this is another thing that's not benefiting me. It's taking from me. Maybe it's just distraction or like it's some content you just don't need, and
Yeah.
and so yeah, it was going cold turkey from it all, but it felt to be honest, it's been amazing. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I can't fault it at all. One of the things we spoke offline about was saying that you don't drink, and I have maybe just avoided saying that to some extent, maybe
Yeah.
because I'm afraid of failure,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm afraid of people coming to me and saying, like, why, so
Yeah.
I've kind of used this sort of like shield as we spoke about, saying, oh, it's a
Yeah.
year that I'm deciding to
Yeah.
go off it, maybe just to give myself some confidence. Like, how did you have that confidence from the get-go, or
Yeah. I
early
mean,
on?
I probably did the same thing. I said it'd be for a month and, to mid-December. And then I thought, well, I'll do it till the end of the year. And then I thought I'd do 12 months. So I guess I did build up to it a little bit. Like there was that parachute, I guess you could say that,
Yeah.
if it all goes wrong or if I've got to get out of jail free card. But then I kind of, yeah, again, just going back to the facts and just how good I was feeling after even a week, or 2 weeks, like it's funny because the events that I went to actually helped solidify the decision, right? Because,
Mm.
you know, when you're going to some events, alcohol creates all these logistical challenges, right? Like how are you going to get there? How are you going to get home? So, one of the main events that we went to was a New Year's Eve wedding. And don't have a wedding on New Year's Eve unless you like this couple and it was their anniversary. So I made plans, so it was fine. But,
Yeah.
we had to, and it was out in the sticks, out near Berlin or Dalesford, I can't remember. But, if we were drinking, we'd have to organise a shuttle or, Uber or something like that. But we drove out there, drove back. My partner, she had a couple of wines, which was cool. And yeah, and I'm just like, this is pretty good. Like, I'm in full
Mm.
control. Next day, got up. Um, so yeah, I think going back to your question, um, the weight that came off when I told myself I wasn't going to drink anymore just made it feel so right. Like I
Mm.
just felt like there was this weight off, and all this obligation was gone. And yeah, I think it kind of made it almost easier because I know what you're saying. Like you can say it's 12 months and then that gives you the out. But I kind of wonder why people go back to it. I guess I'm that far invested into not drinking now. I'm like, why would you just do it for a year? Like, what's the actual point? And
Yeah,
some people I talk to have had a year, like, older people, maybe 50 or 55. I know some people's parents have stopped and then they get back on it and, they end up stopping again. Like it's, I guess because they always had that out, right? Like they had that 12-month period where they're going to stop drinking and then they crack open the wine on, week 53. And most people regret it, I feel. Not just feel, like that's what I've been told. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I just believe I'm not going to drink again. I don't see the point. And that's just my decision. And yeah, I mean, for you, like it's got to be within. Like if it's the narrative that you're going to tell yourself that matters. And if you're not going to drink anymore, like why would that matter to anyone else? Like just be true to yourself and yeah, just say you're not going to do it. And like, who really gives a shit if you end up having another beer or two, in 4 years' time? Like you're probably going to be the one that cares the most out of anyone. You might have your Irish mate saying, "I told you so," I told you so, when you're back on the
yeah.
wagon, all that sort of stuff. But
Right, guys, so I'm absolutely pumped to say the Takeoff podcast is proud to be sponsored by RIB Software, the company behind some of the leading estimating software in the entire planet, including Costex, Candy, CX, and more. So firstly, if you didn't know, RIB are a powerhouse at providing innovative software solutions to the construction and engineering markets. They have over 500,000 users globally, are known universally as a solution provider for your entire project lifecycle, from planning to construction and beyond. RIB solutions help to ultimately connect people, processes, and data, so your project comes within budget, on time, and to the quality desired, all whilst reducing your business's carbon footprint. All this stuff matters, and RIB has the solutions. So if you're interested in finding out more, get on over to rib-software.com, reach out to your local team and quote Takeoff Podcast. For every listener who buys a subscription of RIB Costex, they will provide one free online training course. Okay, guys, back to the episode.
yeah, I don't know. Like, so would you say you are going to drink, or are you still making that decision? Do you think?
No, no, no. I mean, it's like for me, it's over, but it's like
Yeah,
the same time, I know there's going to be tricky things I need to navigate, like two stag do's that I've got coming up. I've got one of them is with that guy, who was the barbecue guy,
yeah,
So like, I mean,
yeah,
that's gonna be fun. But at the same time, like what I'm learning is there's strategy to certain things.
yeah,
So with that, like I would then put myself in a position saying, "Hey, Joe, I'm going to organize this for your stag," or I'm going to take the responsibility of this on your stag,
yeah,
like maybe it's doing some sort of physical activity or something like that,
yeah,
but add value to the group without
yeah,
without having to get drunk, if that makes
yeah,
sense,
yeah,
So like like there's just strategy, and for me, like going back to Ireland is always like a challenge because everyone drinks. Well, not everyone,
yeah,
but there's a lot of like a drinking culture there. So,
yeah,
but then it's like it's an ability to reinvent yourself as well, which is quite cool. Like you're literally like
yeah,
this is me 2.0.
yeah,
So like with every sort of potential hurdle, I see there's a strategy or there's a way of overcoming that. And I mean, I just don't see like the benefit of it anymore. Like, why would I?
yeah,
Like I just don't
yeah,
see what situation is going to make me drink, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
in the hardest situations, I would never have went and going, "Oh, I'm going to start drinking." It was more of a celebratory sort of thing, and with
yeah.
a celebratory sort of thing, I can't see it.
No.
So, but yeah,
What
thanks.
would you say, just to put the question back on you a little bit, like you said you listened to podcasts and things like that. Like, were there any that stood out to you that you would recommend to me or to anyone out there?
So you mentioned the Huberman one. I wanted to say that's the most listened podcast of 2022 or 2023.
Yeah,
Like you look at
yeah,
all the Joe Rogan podcasts and all these huge
yeah.
podcasts out there. That was the
Which says a
most
lot,
that
doesn't it?
100%. It says so
Yeah,
much that everyone's thinking the same thing, but it's kind of
yeah,
like having the courage to be a leader in that
yeah,
respect. So the Huberman ones, it's really good to understand what alcohol does to your brain. And my mom passed away of a brain hemorrhage when I was 21. So I'm
yeah,
always really worried about my brain health, you know. So that is another thing. I'm like, I don't really want to be putting something into my body that's making things in my neurological makeup worse.
yeah,
So that one's a great one. Rich Rolls, he is an ultra marathon runner. He's a really successful businessman. He lost everything due to drink, and
yeah,
basically stopped drinking when he was like 31, 32, and became this hyper successful person.
yeah,
So his podcast is really interesting. More on the lighthearted one, Theo Vaughn, he's a comedian.
yeah, yeah,
He is someone who like was addicted to like cocaine, heroin,
yeah,
alcohol, and doesn't drink, and he's a comedian. And I'm like, well,
yeah.
these people, they're like,
Did you
you know,
see his clip that he had the phone call with the alcoholic? Have you seen that video
no,
clip? Yeah, an alcoholic called in. It's on our website too, and I can share the link with you after. Yeah, he has a word with an alcoholic, and he was asking Theo for advice and stuff, and yeah, it's pretty hard hitting. Like, that could have been anyone calling in, saying the same sort of story. So yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the most successful people in the world are sober. They don't like to talk about it too much, but you see all of the Theo and there's a whole bunch of other people that just don't drink, and that's almost their secret. Like that's how they've
their
been
superpower.
successful, as
Yeah,
well.
it's like when you start to look into it, like these Bradley Cooper, Brad Pitt, all these people don't drink, and I'm like, well, there's definitely something going on here.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just something that kind of makes you a bit different, doesn't it? It kind of makes you like a bit. There's just something to it. Another one is Sober Curious. I think it's on Spotify.
Yeah.
They're based in Australia, and they're pretty
Yes.
good.
There's thing there's Sunny Coast. Yeah. Yeah.
Sunny Coast. And so they interviewed a comedian, Lee Mack, and he's originally from the UK. And he was really interesting because he kind of framed it being like, we need to stop giving alcohol this like putting alcohol on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not all that. It's like when you're saying why don't you drink it? Well, why would it? That was kind of his thing. Is like, like tell me the reason why I would drink, and I'll tell
Yes.
you. Know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, so when you start to really research it and go into it, and you look at the different people who don't drink and all of these things, like I started like getting really interested in like sounds crazy, but like, Islam, and like Muslim culture because they don't drink. I'm like,
Yeah.
and you look at all their UFC fighters and all, I'm like, they're I guess competitive advantage against say other UFC fighters is like so significant. You look at
Yeah.
the classic case of like Habib versus Conor McGregor, and Conor McGregor is this like a half drunk person versus this, completely like pure living, absolute crazy man,
Yeah.
and like who
Yeah.
do you think's gonna win? So it's
Yeah.
like all these different things from sports, and from just like a popular society, and you look at people who don't drink and you go, there's something to that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. I think. Yeah. And I like though the people that put it out there, and I guess that's why I decided to put it out there. Like I'm a nobody in real terms, but at the same time, like that's almost reason to do it as well because I'm a white Australian male in construction saying I don't drink. Like, come on, like it's pretty rare to be honest with you. Like, there's not that many people out there that don't choose to not drink, and you're in the heavy minority now as well, and I'm sure you feel it, and you have people messaging as well about wanting to stop or how did you do it, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it's important for people that are choosing not to you don't have to put it out there and let the whole world know. But I think it's I think we need to have the conversation about what we're doing because drinking is such a heavy, it's just so heavily embedded with everything. And like you said, people ask you why did you stop? Like, sometimes I get so frustrated with some people asking, when I'm drinking or just sorry, when I'm out and about at a pub or whatever, I just feel like saying, well, why do you choose to drink? Like, why are you about to smash
Mm.
down 12 beers? Like, what's going on in your life that you need to do that? Because, you that that's really negative, right? Like that's a really bad way to go about it. But at the same time, like they're putting the same judgment on me when they ask me why I'm not drinking. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a fair question to ask why they're choosing to drink.
Yeah.
And I just don't think they would like the answer if they really had to internalize that question, like why they're choosing to drink. It makes them feel alive and but I dare say there's a lot of people that are running from stuff as well. Like they're trying to hide, the stresses of life or work or home life with alcohol and mask it a little bit. So
Yeah, I think that's the thing with not drinking is that for me the first month of like telling people that I'm not drinking was the hardest part because all these people who are so used to you drinking are now like, well, why? So from a strategy point of view, I just came up with, I know obviously everyone's different, but I came up with an excuse. I was like, right, health kick, I'm doing this, or the health kick was like, right, I'm putting myself on a I've got a goal of not drinking for the next 2-3 months. And so that kind of gets people to back off a bit and back off a bit. And so I don't think there's a problem with that. Whatever you need to do just to get yourself through those
yeah,
initial steps. And then over time, people start to like retreat from that question and they begin to just
yeah,
realize that's who you are and that's what you're doing.
yeah,
And I think that people think that they're going to lose a friend, and there's probably some friends that I haven't communicated with as much as that I would have
yeah,
because our relationship was more based around that sort of
yeah,
going to the pub and drinking. But you'll soon find out who your real friends are, the ones who don't care about that. So
yeah,
um
absolutely.
and there's different and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing either, because some
Yeah,
people can pull you back. But when you're talking about that running away from something, when you're not drinking, you have time to think about that thing
yeah,
and maybe make decisions. Guys, I'm interrupting this podcast today to give you some information as to what I actually do every single day. So I own and operate a business called Get In Executive Recruitment. We're a specialist boutique recruitment company and we specialize purely in the pre-construction and commercial construction markets globally. We're really well known and respected for our work in estimating, cost management, quantity surveying and contract administration. Because we're hyper niche, we don't have millions of candidates. We don't really even have thousands, but more times than not, we have the right candidate for the right job at the right time. Unlike a lot of recruitment agents out there, we are super experienced in what we do. We understand the market, we understand what makes our clients tick, and our candidates tick too. Each and every single assignment we work on undergoes an extensive executive search process. It's robust and it works 100% of the time. We've also got a team of 5 researchers who map our markets out globally within our niche. They're amazing. They allow us to work fast, which saves our clients time and money too. So if you're interested in our process, drop us a message. Now back to the episode.
yeah.
All
I
right, that
realize it's actually not a big deal.
100%.
You've been
Exactly.
blowing it up in your mind this whole time. I guess it's a good segue for like, how have you found um other do you think you've influenced other people in your orbit because of your decision? Like for me, I've kind of noticed when I first stopped, I noticed immediate family just didn't drink as much. And, maybe that's because I was the instigator, right? Like I absolutely was when I was drinking. Like I'd make sure that everyone's topped up and all that sort of stuff. And you're probably the same. So there's probably a degree of me not instigating, but so far to the other way that I was not drinking. I found people close to me didn't drink as much because I guess they just found like, oh, if he can do it, I can do it, sort of thing. What about yourself? Like, have you noticed any change of behaviors with your friends and family?
Yeah, I think, from a peer group, like one of the guy I work closest with all the time, he doesn't like he'll go through periods where he'll like maybe I'll say for example, about probably 2 years ago, I stopped drinking. I didn't drink for maybe I think it was 3 months.
Yeah.
And then during that time he stopped. and he done 3 months, and the same, he's going through like another health kick now, because it's not me going, hey, come on and grab a beer after work. It's like, come on, we'll go for a run. It's
Yeah.
like there's something different there. My wife, she barely ever drinks. My old man was over from Ireland for 2 months. He didn't drink once when I was
Yeah.
over, and it's there would have been times where come on, we'll go to the pub, after work or at
Yeah.
the weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I find that it is quite contagious, and when people stop drinking, they want to tell you,
Yeah.
they want to hear I'm
Which
not
is
drinking,
great.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Another guy that I sort of is in the construction sector, he stopped drinking maybe 2 weeks after I did, and so we can like, those for two,
It's
two,
good.
three
Yeah.
months, it was like having
Yeah.
someone to kind of bounce off. But
Yeah.
you start to realize things that you really like. I absolutely love coffee.
Yeah.
I love going for sushi. And I have this thing
Yeah.
for wasabi. Like you start to like what I actually like in life.
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
not going out and just getting pissed.
Yeah.
Instead of all those beers that you're maybe on a Friday night, Saturday night, where you look at the price of a beer now, like, and 15 bucks depending on
Yeah.
where you are. You go, well,
Yeah.
there's at least 150 bucks that you can spend on, like, maybe going out on a really nice, like, go get a really nice steak, or go
Yeah.
get go something that
Yeah.
actually is quite good. So
Yeah.
all of these things, you realize that there's more to it.
Yeah.
But quite easily, my most favorite time of the week, Saturday morning,
Yeah.
because I wake up early, I go to the gym, I feel great, I have the endorphins, I get some food, I get a coffee, and I'm sitting there, and it's like 8 o'clock, and I feel amazing. You know, um,
Yeah. That's cool.
that's my favorite time of the week. What's yours?
Yeah. Um, it's funny. I went to the gym Friday night, so it was Anzac Day, long weekend, obviously, and it was interesting. I ran into a guy because I've just started up at this gym. We've just relocated to the sunny coast, so I'm just finding my way around. So I introduced myself to this guy at the gym, and I said, "Oh, what are you doing? It's Friday night. We should be at the pub or whatever." And he goes, "Oh no, just not really drinking that much." I said, "Oh, I don't drink at all. Guess that's why we're both here."
Yeah,
Yeah, he told me his stories. I think he was 50, and yeah, he stopped drinking for quite a long time, and then they have one every now and then, and yeah, I mean, he was probably similar to you. He had health concerns or just health. He wanted to look after his health. He's in construction as well, landscaping. And yeah, I didn't really say much. I just said I didn't drink. And all of a sudden he just, yeah, let loose. I guess, we're so few and far between that you don't really get that release to be able to talk about not drinking freely. So yeah, we chatted for about half an hour, didn't get much exercising done for that, to be honest.
yeah,
But
but
yeah, I think being able to go to the gym whenever I want is really helpful. My favorite time is probably all the time. Like, as
mm,
cliche as that sounds, but like it's all me. Like, I don't have alcohol affecting my thoughts or feelings or anything like that. And I guess, getting a bit deeper, like, have you found much change in your relationship, say with your wife or people closer to you? Like you
oh,
said, your wife doesn't drink much, right? Like, she probably had some concerns about you binge drinking, wondering if you're going to get home and all that sort of stuff.
to be honest, like me and her are 100%, like we've always been, but the only time we would ever argue was when I was drunk. Like,
Yeah.
it's like I get like not, yeah, let's face it, I get an ego when I'm drunk, right? And it's like everything is like, I don't know. It's just in general, I just don't like myself when I'm drunk, So
Yeah.
it was getting to the point where I would like delete my social media before I had a beer, delete that off
Yeah.
my,
Wow.
just in case
Yeah.
I posted something like
Yeah.
silly, or I didn't want to, like stuff like that. And so relationship wise, like, she to me is like, I know you're not an alcoholic, so like I don't care whether you drink or not, but you're enjoying not drinking so much that why would you go back to it, and so she's 100%. And like we were speaking the other day. I was like, when's the last time we had an argument? And I was like, I honestly can't remember. A long time ago, and just because. So yeah, relationship wise, without a doubt, and like just being like, for example, like with my old man coming over to Ireland, me and him start to talk. So, for example, we wouldn't go to the pub, but we would go to the gym together, and it's hilarious. Me going to the gym with him. He's not a gym guy at all, but he starts to go to the swimming pool, and he starts swimming, so it's good for him. And then you get this high, from after doing exercise, and we were doing that every day instead of going to the pub once a week or twice a week. And then he tells me about people in my family, like his grandfather who didn't drink. That's my great grandfather, and then his brother who doesn't drink. And then I start to feel like this confidence. Actually, there's people in my family who don't drink, so it's better and it's better. So um, I just think overall, it's something that's given me, not drinking's given me so much more. And I think it can help people out there. Yeah, I think I think it just adds so much to people. I think it can just give you so much, and it takes away so little by not drinking, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I found definitely my relationships got stronger and more authentic, I would say. I th you when I was drinking a lot or just drinking in general, I don't think it was an ego thing. It was just oblivious to anyone else's true feelings or opinion, I guess. The biggest thing I noticed was at family events and things like that. This is going to sound a little silly, but like I noticed that Christmas events, the some people would booze not to help clean up after you've had lunches and everything like that, and it was everyone that was holding a beer, like because you just
Mm,
have no self-awareness that you should be helping or cleaning up or things like that. Like that sounds really
yeah,
silly, but when I was sober, I'm like, oh man, have I just been standing there like an idiot, not helping anyone clean up for 30 plus years? Like that's just craziness to me. So I think when you're sober, you're just so clear and you're more self-aware of everyone and everything around you. So relationships from that point of view got a lot stronger. Just again, like problems can be resolved a hell of a lot quicker when you're sober and you're not drinking or hungover. Like even when you're hungover, you just don't want to deal with it. Like you just go sleep in or you just ignore it, and then in a few days it'll blow over. But the other person in the relationship is sober and they've been thinking about it for those. It's just I think it is tougher when you're drinking. It just puts an added strain on everything. And once you take the alcohol away, like everything's a lot more authentic, I feel.
100%. I
Yeah.
think this has been an incredible conversation, Rob. I think there's going to be so many people listening to this take a lot from it.
You said that you stopped drinking for 3 months last year or the year before.
Mhm.
Why did you choose to do it then, and what made you take up alcohol again? Because I guess that would, some people have done it before, or you've obviously taken the next step and you're going to stop. But yeah, what was the thought process behind stopping originally?
So I stopped probably. It was a December stop again. It was before Christmas, and then I got back on it on St. Patrick's Day. And I know cliche, isn't it? Like, but I was like, right, let's have a big one on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
And to be honest, the St. Patrick's Day was crap.
yeah,
it was like I remember going to bed. I went a golf weekend, and I was with like 15 lads, and I was in bed by like 10, 11 o'clock or something like that. And I remember being in bed, go, why did I drink today? What was the point? I didn't. This didn't add any didn't add any like fun to the whole thing.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
so. And then that year, I think I stopped again for another 3 months, and then I think I had a friend come over from Bali I hadn't seen for like 5 years, and then I stopped for another 3 months, and then I'd maybe have 2 or 3 weeks in a row. So like over the last say 2 to 3 years, I've maybe drank in total less than 10 times.
yeah,
But it's when I drink, it's like I'm making up for the 2, 3 months that I'd stopped beforehand. So when I was working with the coach, he was like, I know you're ready now because you've went through this so many times,
yeah,
and now you're like, this is it kind of
yeah,
thing. And so I just knew I was ready at
yeah,
that point. And it's kind of like I say this sometimes, I don't know if you've ever been in a long relationship before. When you're in a long relationship and you're breaking up, it's not like you break up and that's it. It's
yeah,
like there's like stages where you're breaking up and then you get back together and you're breaking up and back together and it's like it's like
Absolutely.
a toxic relationship,
Yeah.
and then it happens and then you go, well, I know because I've made
Yeah.
this is the decision. There's actually it's a non-podcast, it's a non-alcohol related podcast, but it's a brilliant podcast and it's by an Irish American guy called Brian Buffini,
Yeah.
and it's called The Power of a Made Up Mind. And it is an unbelievable 45 minute podcast
Yeah.
about
Cool.
what you can achieve when you make up your mind. And
Yeah.
it's like that mind at that time, it was made up at that time. And it's been a big change.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I think that's the same for me. Like once you made your mind up, that's it. Like you just move forward with the life, put that old chapter to bed, and that's it.
I think so. It's honestly when you're 4 or 5 months in, and I've actually heard from others that you don't really get the benefits until like you're a year in, because it takes so long for alcohol to get out of your system
Yeah.
and for all the bad toxins within inside you to get out,
Yeah.
And so, I'm 5 months in and I can see the benefits, but the cumulative gains that you're going to get after a year, 2 years, 3 years, you look back
Yeah.
and go, I should have done this 10, 15
Yeah.
years ago.
Do you think the takeoff like this podcast would have happened if you were still drinking? Like the consistency you've been able to put in and other things?
No, nah, probably not. Putting a podcast is nearly like a second job, to be
Yeah,
honest,
absolutely. Yeah.
And so it takes a long time to organize things and come up with content and all that sort of stuff. So the short answer is no. Short
Yeah.
answer is no, because you'll actually see I started this in 2020 and it was really inconsistent.
Yeah.
Pretty much until 2023.
Yeah.
But in 2024, it's been 2 episodes a week, every week.
Yeah.
Every week, and that's been going, it's like, and again, you can see because the listeners are just going like this at the minute.
Yeah.
So since the start of the year, we've increased our subscription by 30% since January,
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
it's been going on for 4 years, but since January, it's increased by 30%.
It's an
And
interesting statistic, isn't it?
it shows you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then I've changed my business model as well.
Yeah.
I've looked at it and going, what does the business need? What does it not need? Let's get the
Yeah.
business healthy. Let's get it lean and healthy.
Yeah.
And there's just honestly, there's so many positives that I can take. Throwing that back to you, Rob. Like what do you think?
Yeah. I don't think I'd be here today if I was still drinking. Again, I think the time is the biggest thing, right? Like as a business owner, like you don't really have your own time anymore. Like you're on everyone else's schedule to a lot of the degree, especially in construction. We're a head contractor. We've got a lot of people relying on us. There's a lot of risk involved, and the industry is quite turbulent at the moment, as you know. But I've been able to put time in, and I've got other things that we're working on as well. Like I've recently got into 3D printing, figuring out how we can, I can scale that up. I love Context, so technology in construction. We're developing our own software at the moment. Hopefully be able to sell that. Like, I just I don't think I'd be that interested in this kind of stuff if I was still drinking too, because the time, but it also takes a lot of focus away. Because I think, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's a bit detrimental to my relationship with my partner as well, because I'm like in a million different places at once trying to do all these things, but at the same time, I can do all these things and still be present in the relationship too. Like I think it's time and bit of focus. I've been able to get back and just have fun doing it. We've expanded the business quite a lot. We've got work in Tasmania and Victoria. We're setting up Brisbane, or we've set up Brisbane, sorry, and I've relocated up to Queensland. Back to Queensland, actually. I lived on the Goldie for 5 years and loved it and had to come back. So, trying to do all of that again, like if you add, even one night, a fortnight into the mix with alcohol, like I just don't think it's happening. And we don't have kids yet. So, I can't imagine what it'd be like with kids and trying to fit alcohol into it. Yeah, so I guess I'm just trying to figure out what my next hobby will be. Once things start to down, probably going to be a bit of golfing, I think, is the
Yeah.
next target. I do a bit of surfing at the moment, but yeah, so
I
just
think
don't drink.
with that, what you see is that without alcohol, you release your potential,
Yeah,
and like, what would you rather do? Would you rather reach your potential, or would
yeah,
you rather drink? It's like, well, I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I think one of the hard things is in our position is to not come off judgmental of people that choose to drink as well. Like most of my mates still drink, and a lot of my colleagues or in the industry still choose to drink, and that's fine too. So I wrestle with that a little bit. Like and that again, that's why I think if you're choosing to drink, you have to do it for yourself, right? Like, sorry, to stop drinking, you have to do it for yourself, educate yourself, and want to do it. And there is benefit to having a go in small bites too. Like you did it 3 months at a time here and there. I had a bit of a taste of that when I was competing in powerlifting. I'd, you know, 8 weeks I just wouldn't drink in the lead up to a competition. I still go to the bar and I just drink water, soda waters and limes. So that kind of was a bit of training. Like when I decided to not drink, I had that experience. And similar to you, like when you chose to stop drinking, you've kind of got this arsenal of like previous experience. Like, yes, I can actually do this, because it is quite daunting. If you've never tried to not do it before, those events can be daunting. Just even saying no is daunting and having that conversation. But it's just trial and error. And, there's so many non-alcoholic drinks out there now, like beers and stuff.
Mm.
Just choose to have those instead and see what happens. Like go to the same pub, the Duke of Wellington or whatever, whatever your local is. Just go there with your mates and choose to have a non-alcoholic drink. Like it's so easy just to trial it out and test it out. Um,
I personally think the only reason that your friends give you stick is because they think they're going to lose you. And I think if you you're actually real friends with them, and you show that
yeah,
you're going to be there and you're going to be the same person that you always are, but you're going to be able to give them a lift home.
yeah,
It's like win-win for everyone.
yeah.
No, but I just want to say, Rob, thanks for this conversation today.
Oh, likewise.
This has been awesome. Going to be so many people listen to it who go, you know what, gonna give this a go, or I'm gonna really knock it on the head.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone who wants a bit of help, through your the alk free life,
Yeah.
what's the best way to get into contact with you?
I'm on LinkedIn and on Insta. There's my full name on everything. And then ALC Free Life, ALC Free Life on everything as well. But I would recommend that just message like, and you're probably an open door now. Like, send Mick a message, send me a message. Like, we we understand what you're going through. Like if you're struggling with it, or if you know that someone's struggling with it, like just talk about it. It's fully confidential. We respect your confidentiality and don't want it'll never go passed on. Like
Yep.
I think it's really important just to speak up. And you're not the only one battling with it, right? Like there's so many people out there that struggle with it. I know lots of people that you'd never suspect. They've gone to AA and NA and all that sort of stuff, and they've come out the other side and they're better for it. And talking about it is really important. So, yeah, feel free to reach out to me and Mick. I'm sure you're the same. Like you'd love to help other people as well now that you've experienced it.
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, to be honest, when I started, I would have loved to listen to something like this.
Yeah,
So, um, anyone wants to reach out, any questions, message myself or Rob.
yeah,
More than happy to lend a hand. But listen, amazing podcast
yeah.
today, Rob, and wish you all the success with everything in the future.
Thanks, Mick. Likewise.
Before you go today, guys, I'm just going to ask you to do one thing. Can you please go to Apple right now or Spotify right now and just give us those 5 stars? Hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference you wouldn't believe. The whole idea of this show is to inspire, educate, and motivate our listeners. And we can only do that if we're getting the best guests. The best guests want to see data. They want to see information. They want to see how many listeners that we get. And so all of this stuff is really, really important. So if you can just literally go and do that today, if you enjoy the show, just go and hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We're going to continue to push this out there every Monday. So if you can, hit that 5-star button. And if you can't, even share it with a friend. Go on to WhatsApp, flick it on to your crew. Guys, Thank you so much for listening. On to next week.